Hello everybody, Charlie with 4BZ Truth. Another early morning rant. Just thought I'd say good morning and give you a few thoughts before I head to work here. I actually feel like a lot of times when I'm up early in the morning, when there's only a few people on the road, helps me kind of have more organization in my thoughts and whatever. I just feel like there's a lot less distractions, I guess. So for anybody that likes to actually sleep in, and it's nice to be able to sleep in too, but I just thought that I encourage anybody that wants to have kind of that spiritual connection, so to speak. And that's actually what I'm going to talk about on this one, because I feel like spirituality is a big topic to me. And if anybody's stumbling on this video for the first time on my channel, I have been on in a rabbit hole of trying to understand who God is and what God is and what that even means. And some people have different interpretations for different things. And it's kind of taken me to a certain crux of, everybody's operating from their bias of understanding, and therefore we get different doctrines and different ideas about what this reality is. And sometimes people will twist and manipulate things to represent their position, but to be honest with you, I don't like doing that. I feel like I just like to analyze things for what they are and try to be as unbiased as possible. And I'll be the first to admit I have a lot of bias, based on my fundamental upbringing. And to be honest with you, when I venture down these paths, sometimes I feel overwhelmed because I don't know if what I'm doing is beneficial, because it feels like all I'm doing is just creating a whirlwind of information that just becomes so convoluted, and it's like I'm shaking up a snow globe or something. And maybe that's not a great example, but just imagine how everything's just settled in every perspective. The perspective is locked in place, but then when you shake things up, it creates disorder. And that's kind of what I feel like where I'm at, a little bit of disorder. And I don't like the feeling of it, because I felt a lot more secure in my Christian worldview. And but on this path or this venture, I've started realizing that spirituality transcends the walls of belief and religion. And I emphasize that there are walls between these things, these belief systems, because they're creating division. They're divided. Now, I pull a lot of philosophy out of the Bible, like a house divided will fall, and I believe that that's true. There's a lot of stuff in the Bible that I believe is very wise, and I'm starting to believe that there's a lot of wisdom in everything. You just have to have a little discernment so that you can understand what's around you, and you can kind of utilize that to your advantage, just depending on your position. And I hate to be so vague in general, but I feel like everybody is on a different path, and I feel like being honest with yourself is really the discerning factor, because people will lock themselves down into a belief system and then You know, they'll reject or disregard anything else that might, you know, ruffle their belief system feathers. And you know, I've been listening to a lot of New Age type stuff. And I was told by somebody that using the terminology New Age is actually a derogatory thing. And, you know, I'm just, you know, presenting from the position that I understand, or the position that I've always understood, and then that is that anything that relates to esoteric or the mystical secret religions, such as Freemasonry, or I don't know if Wiccan is one of those, but I haven't really investigated that fully. But anything that has to do with, you know, it's funny how a lot of these ancient mystical religions actually tie into the Bible, which kind of flipped me out, because like numerology and you know, there's a lot of symbols and things like that in the Bible, which is interesting because Jesus talks about not clinging to a symbol. And I'm trying to remember, I think there's a channel called Mind Unveiled, I think that's what it's called. Brand new channel that I checked out, and honestly I couldn't stop watching the videos. Everything that I was listening to was like exactly what I feel, and with some variation. I mean, there's things that I haven't completely written off Christianity. I feel like there is a lot of truth to Christianity. And now, as to identifying what the lies are, it's up for debate, because you know, someone's perspective could say, oh, I think Christianity is a lie because, you know, Jesus relates to the Horus and you know, the Egyptian you know, gods or whatever. You know, Horus died for 3 days and came back to life, and you know, it's the whole zeitgeist theology, so to speak, because a lot of people draw conclusions before they fully investigate something. And you know, oftentimes I think when people draw conclusions, they're looking for answers to fulfill their own belief system, and if they feel that it adequately represents their own perspective, they're going to draw a conclusion and say this is their evidence, and they're going to use it as their evidence to their advantage. And to be honest with you, I feel like it's anybody can manipulate, or you know, their own interpretation of the evidence. And to be honest with you, you could easily do that with anything. And that's why I feel like my stance has been, don't draw conclusions and just analyze and consider, which I don't know if I want to encourage anybody to actually take that position, because all that has done for me is make me feel sad. It makes me feel like there's no truth in anything, because I feel like there's nothing reliable out there. Or maybe I just don't assume anything's reliable, because the second you know, start trusting something, then you realize that trust sent you down a path of deception. And I don't want to freaking be deceived anymore. And I mean, I've seen enough deception in the world to know that there's deception everywhere. So why would I start trusting? Or how about this? This has been my most recent thing. Why do I trust the reliability of the Bible? Because the Canon has been a topic of debate for millennia, and you know, it kind of makes me wonder, what was left out. I mean, the Book of Enoch is one of those things where people were like, what the heck, why'd they leave it out? And then you go to find that freaking Ethiopian canon has the Book of Enoch. So what would cause, you know, the Romans or whoever it is, the Catholics, to reject it? And then I carry around this Catholic Bible just so I can show people that the canon is not really a firm perspective. Well, I guess you could say it is, from one belief system to the next. So what belief system do you fall in? I can say that I don't fall in a belief system of any canon at this point. I feel like it's up for debate in my mind, because there's a lot of things out there that shine light on, you know, this reality, and honestly, I think that, you know, that I hate to say that I'm venturing down the road of Gnosticism, because I've always, you know, taken that word as being a derogatory thing, or like a negative. You know, Gnosticism is an opposition to Jesus or the faith. And but the more I kind of venture down this road, the more I realize that Gnostics are in pursuit of knowledge, and that's, or I guess the word Gnostic means gnosis, and to know is really just like science. It's like nobody frowns on the word science, like trying to understand what science is. But then again, I mean, you have the debates going on in science, like with creation and evolution and all that. But so like I've had a lot of people comment on my stuff and, you know, try to shoot me down and make me sound like a moron, because I don't have their position of understanding. And, you know, it's silly to me that nobody or anybody that actually comments on my stuff and tries to shoot me down and troll me or whatever, you know, they don't realize that their position is really just a belief. Because, you know, you can interpret things whatever way you want to, it seems like sometimes. Now, there are things that I know are absolute. I will always go back to this. 1 + 1 does equal 2, and you can't, you know, throw in some variable there unless you're modifying what, you know, this reality is. And we have proof that 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, so our eyes see things, but they can also be deceived with illusion and whatnot. So I really hope this video will post, because I'm getting up there and I've been having trouble with the length of videos. So anyways, but I'll just keep my thoughts going, because this is important. We need to consider that God, whatever God is, I believe God is spirit. And if we're made in the likeness of God, or the image of God, Jesus is the only one that actually manifests as a human as far as God is concerned. Now, obviously, there's people out there that will actually argue with me and say Jesus was just a man, but the Bible doesn't reflect that. So see, this gets me back on this thought process of the biblical canon. Not just the canon, but the certain things in the Bible that seem esoteric or seem, you know, parabolic. There's a lot of parables, and I kind of wonder if all these things in history, the writing styles were intended to be very mystical and hidden in nature, so that we could decode, and it seems like the ancient mind loved to do deep thinking, and you know, they love to decode things or be philosophical about everything. And so, you know, nowadays it seems like nobody freaking gives a crap. I mean, I say nobody, but I'm talking like the general populace doesn't give a crap. There's a very few, a minority that actually want to break things down and have a full understanding. And I just wish that people, like, I literally can't have a conversation with anybody. They just shut down. You know, there's a few people out there that I actually feel like I can have a decent conversation with, even if our views are in opposition. You know, that we give each other things to think about, and that's a win. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I would rather just watch the highlights of the game that just happened or whatever, because of course we're always going to be having the sports highlights on the TV at work or whatever. And I'm that guy that freaking always wants to talk about stuff at work, and I'm probably going to get fired for it eventually, hopefully. Maybe not hopefully, that would suck, but anyways. But that's kind of the boat I'm in. I feel like all these kind of things matter more, trying to understand it, but I don't know if my impact on this world is going to be that great. But if I can influence one person out there with the stuff that I have to say, man, you know, that's awesome. I feel like it would be great to be able to influence somebody. Now, do I have any kind of authority on anything? Honestly, the only authority I have is whatever I'm given. And I don't know if I have I mean, I don't know if any of the information that I was given is foolproof, I guess. And I'm still investigating, and I'm going to continue to investigate. So I don't want to, you know, seem like just I'm floating through and ever learning and never coming to the knowledge of the truth, because my brother brought that up to me the other day. And I feel like, man, you can twist that in whatever direction you want. You could say that in any, you know, the Mormons could say that to me, or to my brother, and say, oh, you're ever learning, never come to the knowledge of the truth. Or the one where it says, depart from me, I never knew you. Jesus says that to the one who practices lawlessness. And what does it even mean to be lawless? What law are you referring to? It seems to me like the law is a guideline that we're supposed to live by, but I don't think anybody fully lives by that law. So anyways, maybe you just have to outwardly be projecting that as the top of your priorities or something. Like you can't just be complacent and just be moving through this life and not care. Because if you don't care, I think that is lawlessness. So anyways, I just thought I'd shoot that out there. Thanks everybody for listening, and I freaking love you guys. I really hope you're doing great, and I hope that you'll come back and visit next time. I'm gonna freaking keep posting the videos here and there. So if you want to hear more from me, you know, click on the bell icon, subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.